I'm back with the roses. Sorry, ladies. You're going to have pink or coral colored roses. Pick back those guard petals for them. We're going to place these first. It's not often that I'm going to say we're going to place our feature flowers first, but that's what we're going to do for this. And I realized that I didn't set up my pile well. I did not clean all my flowers back. So I'm going to be cleaning as I go along rather than all at the beginning. So bear with me on this. Okay, so we're going to cut our roses down, and remember we have our center area where our nest is going to be. So I'm going to be placing my flowers in at an angle, cutting at an angle. It's always easier if you cut at an angle because then it slides into the foam easier. It works like an arrow rather than a blunt end if you think about it that way. Don't think about a flesh wound. Okay. So my roses are in. Yes, they're not the same color because I have reserved those for you in the back. So I was just grabbing what I had out front quickly so that we could continue on with our video here. The next thing that I'm going to use is our carnations. Now you don't necessarily have to clean them all back on the end because we're only going to be using the top parts. Because I have 2 roses on one side and 1 rose on the back, we're going to opposite that. We're going to put 2 roses on the back, 2 carnations on the back, and 1 on the front. Yeah, we're going to get this right. You know how this goes, ladies. All right, so there we go. We got 2 on one side and 1 on the other. So if you're sitting on one side of the table, you can still see through to the other side your flowers. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to use is I'm going to cut apart my asters, okay? And again, we're going to cut little pieces off right down at where their little branches hit the stem. And I'm going to chop them both up. That way they're ready to put into place. And I want a lot of little pieces. I'm not doing them individually. I'm leaving anywhere from 3 to 4 of them stuck together so that some of them are 2. Just depends. And sometimes working them as a single piece, their stem is not stiff enough. Here are some of my singles, but they are the ones that are towards the lower part of the stem, so they will be a little stronger than those up top. Think about a tree and branches, and flowers work the same way. So now that I have them in pieces, I can place them all over the place. So I want a smattering of yellow everywhere. Bright sunshiny color. Let's think of the sun. Let's get them all into place. Again, I'm still avoiding that center area because why put flowers there if we're going to put our little decoration in the center? Think about that when you're making other centerpieces. You can use a little figurine. One time we did a lantern in the center. There's just so many options at home that you might have around that you can put in the center of a flower arrangement, but you just need to build space for it so that all the flowers are not sitting on top of it. And why move something twice if you know you're going to place it? If you're worried about its size, you could have made up the little nest first and put it in, but being that I know roughly how big it's going to be, I am just know that I have to leave that space available, and I didn't want the eggs rolling all over the place because I'm not gluing them into place, and we'll talk about that. All right, so the next thing that we're going to use is the tulips. You're not going to need all this lower foliage on it, so we're just going to be using the top. This might even be too long. Now, these stems are very tender. When you put them in, do not hold your hand all the way up here and shove. Their capillaries are very soft and this stem will collapse on you. So when you're going to insert a tulip, make sure again that you're cutting it at an angle so it's going in like an arrow and not like blunt force, okay? And then you're going to hold it all the way down on the bottom. Your fingers are going to touch the foam, and then you're going to slowly, as it's touching the foam, back your fingers up and push, back your fingers up and push till you get it to the level that you want. But your fingers are going to follow and hold the stem so that you get it to that correct place, okay? And that keeps the stem straight, and you don't have to worry about the cells collapsing inside the stem of the tulip. These are the ones that we always go, oh, I broke mine, I need a new one. Well, you can't come back to me and get a new one because I'm giving them all to you ahead of time and I don't have an extra bucket in the classroom. So we're here at the shop. So be very, very careful with the tulips and use that practice of pushing them in. Now, tulips are phototrophic, they will grow. So even though you think, oh, I want them to hang out here, in a couple days, they will be hanging out here. They grow about 1 inch a day and they also follow the light. So if your light source is above, they will eventually start to curve upwards. If your light source, if your room is dark most of the time, but you have a window over here, then they're going to start leaning and looking towards where the light is. So that's the one fun thing about tulips. All right, again, last but not least, hold them, cut it on an angle, push it in carefully, weasel it into place. All right, so now I have my roses, I have my carnations, I have my tulips, and my solidago in here. So my daughter's reminding me to smile. There we go. All right, this is fun. So all the way around, you can see how I have placed all the flowers. Now, sometimes your tulips will open and then they will close at night. Again, daylight, moonlight. It happens. Or warm and cold. So with our mums, the kind that I was able to get, it was called a CDN box, which is Cushion Daisy Novelty. So there's all different kinds that you're going to get. Some of you are going to get some daisies, some are going to get some cushions, which is what these white ones are, and some of you are going to get some novelty, which is kind of a cross between the two, or a button mum. They don't have long laterals, so again, just like we did with the solidago and with our tree fern and baker fern, we're cutting them into pieces that we can use together as a group. All right? Better in numbers. So I'm kind of tucking them around here and there. You're going to get 3 mums, 2 of one color and 1 of another. Now this one is a daisy, so he has longer laterals. I find that the daisies, for the most part, don't quote me on that, have longer laterals, because when I say that, then yours will be all the short ones, right? That's how it goes. Okay, so then we're going to use these as individuals and tuck them into place. As I always say, there's no right or wrong in design. It's all in the eyes of the designer. For a piece like this, we're working all the way around in a radial fashion around the piece, taking off these bigger leaves to get them out of my way so I can see where I'm going to make my cuts. Okay, so I'm going to cut right here. Timber! Top part of the tree fell over. All right, this one I'm going to have 2 and 2. And this little guy I can use by himself. Okay, so because I have a big nugget over here that I put in, Cammie's laughing. I bet her focus was not, but she dropped me. She dropped me. She's admitting it. All right, so I'm taking out this one single yellow and putting, that way I've got a balance of the whites, 1 on each side of the arrangement for the bulk of it. I'm gonna tuck this little guy over here. All right. I put a 2Z of white on the other side, another 2Z over here. Some more on this side. A little heavy on the white on this side. Okay, we're getting down to our last flower, ladies. This is our status. Cutting these guys off by the branch because we don't need them to be long for centerpieces. We don't need long pieces. So I trim up all that excess little, I'll call it a phalange. I don't know what it's called. I should have looked it up ahead of time to let you know. So some of them I've taken that off and others I'm letting it be. And I'm just tucking purple, yellow, orange, pink, all spring colors. Some of you might even have some lavender in your mums. We'll see what we get. Each kit will have just a couple things that are different from one another. And my last piece of purple I'm going to tuck up here. So maybe Cammie can come in and take a aerial view of our centerpiece before we work with our nest and eggs. I'll clean back some of my mess. So the the last thing that we're going to work on is to make our nest. And this is Spanish moss that is a parasitic kind of plant, an air plant that attaches to trees mostly in the south. And it's something that you can use to wind up to make a nest, and something that's natural. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist it. And as I'm twisting, I'm curling. Twist. 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 Kind of making a little basket here. Twisting it into a nest. I could have just taken the whole pile and made a big round blob, but I figured we should do something a little bit more fancy than a big blob. And it does make a little bit of a mess, so please, you know, do this where you don't mind a little bit of dirt getting on your table. Okay, at the shop, we always have dirt. All right, so this nest is going to nestle right in the center of my arrangement here. And my center got stuck on that status. There we go. Okay, so, and in the center, we're gonna place our eggs. Each of you are gonna get 3 eggs. Now, if this was something permanent, you can glue it into place, but I figure at the end of the holiday and when it's time to pull flowers out, you can take your eggs out and you can put them in a bag and store them away with your spring and Easter arrangements. And then you can take your nest. Now, it is going to pull moisture from the foam and from the flower, so it might be a little wet on the back side of it. So be careful. Do not put this in a bag until it is fully dry. Give it like 2 weeks to dry, because it is an air plant. It pulls moisture from the air or anything around it. You do not want it to mold on you, so don't put these together, put it in a bag. You will have moldy moss, moldy eggs. All right, so that is my tip. If you're not going to save this, then just put it out, tear it apart and put it out in your garden. It works like great like mulch and to help with your plants outside, because our climate up here, it will not grow. All right, so thank you ladies. Have a happy holiday, and I can't wait to see you in person soon. Bye.